Yeah.
So gerrymandering is fixing voting lines for, Mayor Daley was very good at that in Chicago. They even gerrymandered the north. In the northwest of Ulster is the very poor Donegal. Okay, where you guys, even Carsavine in that area. And they even gave that back to, and that's part of Ulster, and they gave it to the Republic because there were too many Catholics there. And so they gerrymandered the 6 counties in the north so that the Protestants were 2/3 of the majority, and the Catholics there were 1/3. And then they wrote in, this is a Protestant state for a Protestant people. And the majority rules. And the Catholics were left there totally helpless. And they had, living in the north of Ireland from 1922 to 1968 would be like a black living in Mississippi in 1865. Jim Crow laws would abound. You have no rights. And so privilege was extended to the Protestants. In housing, they always got the best houses. And you would get your name on a list, you'd be number 1, and they would give it to a single, you'd have a, you know how the Catholics breed. You'd have a Catholic family of maybe 5 or 6 kids. They were number 1 on the list in the housing estate. They would give it to number 10 on the list, a single Protestant girl who didn't have any kids. So the Catholics always got the raw end on housing. Education, all right. They always got only about 1/3 of the funding. And then the big one, jobs. Remember, Ulster has the great shipbuilding yards and the woolen mills, and they always got preference on jobs. But even more than that was the fact that, and the word for a Catholic there is Teig, T-E-I-G, and that would be equal to the N-word here we would give to African Americans. Or what words do we use of derision for minorities? For the Mexicans, it would be a spick. Italian would be what? What's the derision? A wop. A wop. Okay. Don't you know your words of derision for a Polak.
Yeah. Archie Bunker.
Yeah. If you watch the old Archie Bunkers, you'll pick all of those up. And so the Teigs were, it brought back all those pre-famine days when the Native Irish or the Catholic Irish were considered less than human. And it was also continual put down. And there were curfews. And they put in, you guys, traditional unionism, the Special Powers Act of 1922. And this is the way you would keep that 1/3 of the population under control. You could detain people without a charge. If 3 or more people gathered, you could call that a rebellious, seditious act, and you would break them up. You could impose curfew, restrict movements. Here's a good one. Prohibit inquests. If the RUC beat a guy up, you couldn't have the body and see if harm was done there. No inquests. And here's the big one, and this will really be big from 68 on. You could order searches of houses without warrants. There was no habeas corpus whatsoever. In other words, it was a total, absolute, and complete police state in order to keep that 1/3 of the population under control and that they know their place. And that is the unionist state of mind. And they would say, this is a Protestant state for a Protestant people. And the Catholics are subversive, they're inferior, and they better know their place. And just like in the Old South, if a black is walking down the street and a white man is approaching, the Jim Crow laws, what better he do? Move to the other side. Sure, we did Black Boy. All of those experiences that Richard Wright did in Black Boy, that was a Catholic, but even worse in Northern Ireland. And they were also seen as traitors and seditious because they wanted the union of the North and the South. And so you can see from the unionist standpoint. This goes on until 1968. What happens at that time is, first of all, education gets better. There are some reforms made. And there is a liberal, if there's such a thing as a liberal unionist, Terence O'Neill. and he's a Protestant unionist, head of state of Northern Ireland, and he thinks it's time for a little ecumenism. Remember the 1960s? We had the Ecumenical Council, Vatican II,
Yeah.
and you had Martin Luther King, and you had the March in Selma, and the back of the bus, and all of this, and then the integration of schools. Well, that spreads, and the Irish in the north of Ireland say, hey, us too, it's time that we form a civil rights association. And what is formed is the Northern Irish Civil Rights Association, NICRA. And they begin to push for Catholic rights.